what is happening?
Oh, not much. I'm glad you're here joining us on Two Guys Talking Toys, and we may be changing the title for this episode. I'll tell you why in a couple of minutes. But we're still I loved last week when we were celebrating our year anniversary of doing this nonsense
That
and
was fun.
enjoying it. Yeah, and we had your sisters on, so I figured this week we'll continue that celebration. But first, did you get anything new?
Oh, you know what? I I was so excited to jump on. I forgot. Give me 1 second. Riveting.
Tom is unprepared, and it's going to be something already in a package. She's not even going to know what it is. Watch, let's see if we continue that tradition.
This is the
This
high
was so
quality
secret,
content
so
you all
secret,
come here for.
so secret. Tom couldn't even bring it in front of the camera.
I had to go and get it out of the safe. It wasn't my safe. I had to go crack into it first. So, continuing on with what did I get? I don't know. I don't remember because this
It's a
arrived.
dog.
This arrived a few weeks ago. It's my dog in a box, which means I really should have opened this like weeks ago.
Ah,
It's going to be unpleasant for everybody. I am so sorry, Pupper.
I feel like the audience would enjoy seeing a boxed, dehydrated dog.
I don't know if they would like seeing that.
No,
Unless
then
it's
you just add water and it goes like one of
oh,
those
like
throw things.
one of those mattresses that you
Yeah,
like
yeah,
pull
yeah,
out of
yeah.
the box.
Yep.
This week's get is White Widow.
Oh, that looks like a good figure. I've never seen that one in the store.
It's based on it's based on the live action, so I will
Right. Yeah,
probably
yeah.
not be keeping her. But this is why I got her, because I wanted that Build-A-Figure piece,
Right.
which means that this is part of that super cheap Target sale where they were just brooming everything, and they were like, here,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't take
this.
much advantage of that.
Did I send you a picture of what I found in Walmart? Because
The Talos?
yes.
Yes, you did.
So why is Walmart's idea of a clearance $19.99? I'm not paying $19.99 for Talos. I said it before. I'll say it again. He sucks, and I'm not paying full price for him. I just want the Hydra Stomper. I won't do it.
We're going on Tom's rant early today. I like it.
What about you? Did you have better luck than I did?
I did. I got for Christmas and my birthday, I got the 10-inch like Titan figures that you could get at Target and Walmart.
Yes.
And some of them are really cool. Like the Black Manta was cool. A lot of the Batman figures are cool. They just released a new Bane under Batman Adventures. And they did the Joker, which is fantastic. It's a great figure.
Oh, that is really cool.
Not only is it a great figure in and of itself, but it comes with great accessories. It has playing cards and his little walking stick that he loves.
That's
it comes
awesome.
with a jacket and tails that you could put on him.
It's a lot of effort for.
Yeah,
and I don't want to say a bad figure. He's really good, and it comes with a hat. That is awesome.
And it comes with the hat. Yeah, this is a great figure, and you pick these guys up for like 10 to 12 bucks.
That's really good. We've come a long way since the giant Toy Biz X-Men.
Yes, we have.
Which, by the way, I kind of wish they would bring back.
Yeah, I do kind of like those.
Fun.
And also weird. I have two rescues from two different Targets here on the island.
Really?
And
I'm always amazed by how you find stuff in parking lots or near stores. I never see anything.
But they're perfectly color coordinated with this Joker. One is a McDonald's squishy, which is Grimace, right?
It's like Grimace having just spilled his popcorn.
Yeah, and this little popper thing, which is the same color green. So these two rescues just color coordinated today.
You got a ready-made crew for Joker. That's fantastic.
That's right. That's the way it goes. So, Tom, moving forward from last week's show when we were graced by your two sisters joining us, and since you and I are gleeful co-hosts, I thought today we would bring on my bro hosts. And I have Derrick, my older brother, and Dale, my younger brother. And, they're going to join us today and talk about the idiocy that was our childhood and
fantastic
plan. So you guys can go ahead and join us. That would be great.
Wow, welcome to Four Guys Talking Toys.
Four Guys Talking Toys today. Yeah. So Derrick is my older brother. Dale's my younger brother. You've heard me discuss them before, and this is the way it normally worked when we were kids. I was the boring one, right? And I would get characters and figures, and I would try to stay in their lane. Like I was always the boring one. And Dale would create these characters. Like every one of his characters was someone you wanted to know about. It was like watching a Coen Brothers film. They were all a little bit wacky, and you never knew which direction they were going. And then Derrick would always bring in like the mystical, or like for instance, when we switched from Star Wars to GI Joe, right? And there were so many characters, and but Derrick kind of stayed with Star Wars because it had that mystical space element, and then it screwed all because we were like, we got ninjas, and he's like, and then what are we going to
Space
do with GI Joe
ninjas.
guys? Because he's got force fields and lightsabers and the Force. So like, Derrick would show up, and we're like, oh great, now we're screwed. Darth Vader's here, right? What are you going to do? So and that's just kind of the way it went, right? Would you say that was accurate, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, Darth Vader always messed everything up because you can't,
Right, because what are you going to do?
you can't
What are you
lose
gonna do
if
against
it's
him?
not Darth Vader anymore.
Right. And
Dracula, too.
yeah, and Dale always, I don't even know how, but he would always, as soon as he opened the package, he would come up with a character like that. Like he was just like, my guys were the run and mill guys, but Dale, like I was story driven, and Dale's stories were always very character driven. Dale, what brought that about with you?
Well, I think it had to do with being the youngest. And
Right.
so when a collection would come out and we'd get into it, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but when we were really little and it was all Star Wars toys, one of you guys had like Han Solo and the Bounty Hunters, and the other one had Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and I had like Princess Leia and Lando Calrissian fighting the Tusken Raiders.
Right.
So
Dale had this thing with Cloud City. Like his favorite guy were the Ugnaughts and Lobot.
Lobot,
Like,
yeah, Lobot was my protagonist in every story. And because I always had the sort of secondary characters, I had to give them something to make them special, because Luke Skywalker is inherently special and Darth Vader is inherently special. Lobot is just the guy.
Just a 9 to 5. He checks in.
He doesn't even check in. Lando turns him on with a remote control.
Well, to be honest, Billy D turns everybody on.
He just walks
45.
past. Oh,
yeah,
I'm up.
I can dig that.
Cloud City's the coolest place to be.
Pardon the cough. Yeah, and then Derrick always had the figures that were kind of like outside the norm. Even when we were very young, and I think I probably mentioned this, Dale and I had this make-believe adventure team, creatively named, not Dana and Dale, they were John and Mike. I don't know why we'd go from having fun names to having boring names, but we would climb trees and pretend we were climbing mountains, and, the grass pile was quicksand. Like we would just run around the yard and pretend we were having adventures. I'm
sorry, go ahead.
And then Derrick joined us as Jack. So we were John, Mike, and Jack, the adventurers. But then suddenly in the middle of our adventure, Jack would turn into a werewolf. And then the whole story would take a different turn. Like it was always Derrick who motivated the break from the norm. So like we're playing GI Joe, and then the 4-inch Dracula would show up, and just like what the heck, man. So Derrick always found those characters outside the norm. And was that on purpose, Derrick, or was that just something?
No, it just kind of worked out that way. I liked the monsters, and then I had to fit them in somehow. So I said, "Go fight Dracula."
Right, and go ahead.
As the older brother, what was that kind of like? Were you used to just like, I don't know how much older than Dana you are. Were you just used to playing like kind of on your own, and then Dana showed up?
We're all pretty close in age. Derrick's only a year older than I and Dale's 2 years younger.
I don't know. I just I always like the weirder, more outre stuff. So, but I still wanted to play. So
yeah. And then you had someone to play with.
Trying to work it in somehow.
Yeah, but the good thing about that is always it expanded our universe. For instance, I when I look back now, the most fun that we had collectively were I think the times when we were playing with the wrestlers on the dining room table, and we had all these characters and we had commentators, and we like pretended it was airing at 2 in the morning and nobody was watching, so that made a fun banter between. But like,
And that comes from the like that we were not just WWF kids.
Mhm.
right,
That
I was
we
just
were
ready to say that.
watching AWA like when it was declining and getting kind of
Oh, okay.
sad.
Yeah, yeah. So when that was AWA was our almost we almost took the AWA like de-evolution and then turned it into Glow. Like that's how
Yeah.
that's how far down.
Did you have any of the AWA figures?
Yeah,
Oh,
Derrick
yeah,
was the
yeah.
one who introduced
I
him.
had them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the. I was always like I like the AWA and NWA because it was like
Mhm.
the wheel wrestling.
Right.
So, but I still try to make it work with the WWE down, then WWF.
Right.
Mhm.
And it was like we had the Hulk Hogan and the Roddy Piper, and Derrick's a big Roddy Piper fan. But you know, when he didn't have Roddy Piper, he took AWA's Roddy Piper. He took Larry Zbyszko and introduced like when those figures came out. You know, Stan Hansen and the Four Horsemen and Larry Zbyszko from Remco. Those Remco figures, they
Mhm.
were smaller than the WWE guys, but Derrick kind of expanded that, which then Dale and I bid on and got all of those knockoff, those Galaxy Defender
Oh yeah.
guys. And then
Yeah.
once again, Dale came up with I mean, we had all kinds of weird characters. I had this one character, and I still have the figure that spoke only in broken riddles. And Dale had this like Evil Knievel wannabe guy.
Yale.
Yale. His name was Yale, and he was just like this nerdy. I don't know, like almost like a law student.
He was based on a character from Benson. There's a guy on
Really?
Benson who came in and said, "Hi, my name is Yale."
That's awesome.
And
Yeah.
so I based this stuntman themed wrestler on Yale from Benson.
Yeah, he was red, right? He had red and with the
Yeah,
white.
red
He
suit,
wasn't
red
blue
hair.
like Evil
Yeah.
Knievel.
Now,
And that
did you keep the wrestlers like just wrestlers, or did you pull in like figures from other toy lines? Because yeah, like I've told you, I had dinosaurs and just random weird stuff, but they had wrestling rules. So since you had actual wrestlers, were you pulling in like He-Man, or did like Jason the Wheeled Warriors join you, or
No,
was it strictly like wrestling?
Jason you saw, but we did have Thunder Punch He-Man
Mhm.
and some other He-Man figures that got involved. We didn't go as
They
far
did
as
a
the
little bit
dinosaurs,
more.
but those Remco, that same buck as the
Mhm.
AWA wrestlers, they had the dinosaur heads. Those would have certainly joined into the squared circle to go.
Oh yeah, and Demos from the Warlord, they
Yeah,
became
Demos and
wrestlers.
Warlord.
And,
Yeah.
and we had the Remco Thunderlips.
Yes. Yep. And
So
Mr. T, we had that Mr. T too. And
Yes.
that's right when that rock and wrestling connection was happening and Mr. T was involved. So that was cool.
Did you have like a long ongoing story, or did you kind of like change what you were doing depending on what your moods were? Like, right? Did you, was it wrestling one day and then like GI Joe's the next, or did you have like a linear story that was developing?
No, we would switch probably every couple of months. We were pretty devout to whatever we were doing, and then we would transition to something else. Like I said, especially when we inherited the basement as our transferable world, we would do, and really it would come to like whatever was new at the time, and it would shift on scales, because everything was 3 3/4 inch, and we had our bases set, and then wrestling was upstairs on the dining room table, which probably was much to my mother's chagrin. But then we moved back downstairs, and it went from GI Joe. We had an expansive GI Joe universe down
Yeah.
there to He-Man, and then it really took off when we got into the superheroes, because that opened up a really wide universe of characters that there were no limits, because the comics had vampires and werewolves and space travel and superheroes and magic. So we had Crystar, Dungeons and Dragons, the superheroes, all of them together.
I'm glad you brought this up, because I've been dying to know this from the start of this show. I need to know the entire story behind Jake the Snake summoning Metlar.
There you go.
Dana has told me about this, but I've always wanted to hear it firsthand, like what the story was, what led up to it, what the adventure
fantastic. That whole, like, let me just lay the framework. Like, Dale was so good at weaving outside characters in. So, like, I had so many superheroes, and Derrick had like this area. Derrick had the Ninja Turtles. That was his big thing. Like, Derrick had the Ninja Turtles and had this area of the basement that he set up, and it was called Cursed Earth. It was like this whole like dark area over there. So it broke down like this. Like, I had the superheroes. Derrick had like the Ninja Turtles and that kind of thing. And then Dale had a lot of the other Playmates guys. He had the Dick Tracy guys and stuff like that. So Derrick and I would be doing these battles, and like Dale said, he kind of fell getting those extra guys. So, but Dick Tracy, like I've said before, yeah, Dick Tracy and Sam Catchem. So then they deputized the wrestlers, which meant that Big Boy Caprice then tired wrestlers, and they had the AWE guys and all that. And then that's how Metlar got involved. So that's all you, Dale.
Well, yeah, the idea was, so Big Boy got tired of getting raided by the cops. So there was this part of the basement that was just in shambles. Like,
yeah,
there was just,
it was the no-go zone for when we were little. It was like, yes, you could play in the basement, but don't go there, because it was like wood with nails and stuff like that.
Yeah, I stepped on more rusty nails by the time I was 13.
It's just a magnet for young. It's just a magnet for young boys.
Right.
Why would you tell them to not go there?
Right.
Yeah. You know, I decided not to get a tetanus shot and just build an immunity. But, so basically that was hell. That was where Metlar dwelled, and Big Boy set up his base in hell. And then just outside, like hell adjacent, was where all the wrestlers lived. And the only way to get into hell was for Jake the Snake to put the mask on and do the incantation to open the portal so that you can go into hell.
What kind of mask did he have?
It was so you remember the Swamp Thing figures?
The Kenner Swamp Thing line.
The Kenner Swamp Things. And he had like this bear trap.
Oh, yeah.
Thing.
Wow. That's a good
bear
idea.
trap straight up. It looked like
the roots looked like antlers. Yeah.
So it was like this goat head mask that I would put on Jake the Snake.
And I told you when Derrick said he wanted to buy the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, my reaction when we did the Turtles episode, my reaction was mixed. I was like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I can't decide whether that's dumb or cool. But it sort of at the time was that off-center.
I didn't know what they were when I bought them. I think we were in Michigan.
Yeah. Yes. Good memory.
And I see them. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm getting this because it's
just weird.
It's so weird.
They were awesome.
Yeah. Derrick, do you remember the time Dale and I discovered Shredder downstairs without his shroud on?
Yeah. I was upstairs and I heard the laughter, and I was like, they seemed. I don't remember why I took the shroud off, but
I think you washed it or something.
Yeah, I think he got wet.
Yeah,
he just took it off him to dry it.
As is what happens with the Shredder often when he's down in the sewers.
Yeah, you got to wash that thing when you're trouncing around in the sewers.
And then Krang points and laughs at him.
Yeah, I'll share some of my some of my favorite moments was that I don't remember the guy's name. He was from that Warlord line, the guy with the horns. I think it was the Conan villain.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And
with the purple
sparkly shroud. Yeah, he got in a fight with Superman. That was pretty epic down there. That Shredder memory sticks in my head forever. And then and Derrick's Universal Monsters showing up and screwing everything up all the time because G.I. Joe is not prepared to fight a vampire.
Tell us about some of those. What were some of the stories of G.I. Joe encountering Universal Monsters? Because that's also a very fun concept.
Right. Well, it was all about, it's very similar to the Serpentor story, believe it or not. I think they were spying on Derrick. And, he had Dale had Destro, and I had Cobra Commander and the Dreadnoks. And then originally Derrick kind of had the business guys. Like he had Tomex's name out early on. And then, how do they compete? Well, it was just like the Serpentor story. They needed, it was very similar. Like I think they were spying on Derrick.
Now, what was the end goal? I'm assuming to just destroy G.I. Joe.
I don't know. I remember like Dracula was in charge of all of them because like the Creature of Black Lagoon and the Werewolf, they're all kind of dumb. So
Right.
Dracula would be the one in charge. Phantom of the Opera would be like, I don't know, like his, what you call an assistant.
He didn't really have a role because he's just this.
But he's just like a guy. So
He's just a choir geek who couldn't get a date, so he had to kidnap her.
Well, and he's in a silent film, so he doesn't even say anything. He just he just opens his mouth and nothing comes out.
Yeah. But Frankenstein was the muscle,
Mhm.
But how do you beat Dracula? One, you can't shoot him, right? So we had to have G.I. Joe designing silver bullets and wooden weapons. So, but it was cool though, because we would use toothpicks, right? So they couldn't stab him with a traditional sword, but a toothpick, if they drive that through his heart, they'd get him.
Did you guys also? And I'm sure we've brought this up before. Did you have those little cocktail swords? Because once I found those, they were fantastic.
Yeah, I still like those. Dale, let me give you there we go. Do you have one?
Yeah, I got my
yes,
this guy right here with the cocktail sword.
Let me tell you one of Dale's characters that he created. Derrick always moved us forward in story, and Dale moved us forward in laughter and characters. And so the Tonka guy, Hank, he's got the blue overalls, says Tonka.
Yes.
I don't know why we had this guy laying around, and Dale had a skull ring that broke.
Mhm.
So he glued the skull ring onto the guy's face and gave him a sword that the guy believed was Excalibur.
Mhm.
And then he would run around with this horribly pseudo English accent saying that he should be in charge because he wields Excalibur.
Excalibur. All right, fun fact about that guy. He had the purple robe from the Remco goat guy.
Right. Right. Yep. He sure did.
So that was one of like, I guess the earliest custom figures that you created.
Yeah. He did a lot of those. I told you about Cutthroat and the Serpentor head swap amalgam guy.
Was some of that just out of necessity? Because I remember I would be just being a kid and having toys, you'd break stuff. So I would I'd find like a leg from someone and just kind of cobble it together and then take dad's duct tape and make a new guy. So was it more of like out of necessity, or did you have like in your head an idea for this guy would be kind of cool if I added XYZ?
Well, at one point we got into the idea of if we were playing outside with the G.I. Joes, we would do the gunfights with a BB gun.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of casualties.
Yeah, it was a one pump rule, but yeah.
Yeah, and we had like a plastic shot, like a King Cullen bag that was just full of scrap G.I. Joe parts with broken guys and stuff. So every once in a while you'd get bored and just cobble together some new guys out of mismatched parts.
We would buy those corpse figures just to have parts.
Oh, yeah, that's good fodder.
It was very Dr. Frankenstein-esque. Derrick, when he brought in the Ninja Turtles to the superhero, and then that expansive universe was, his Shredder character was spot on. Not just, it wasn't just an impression of the cartoon, even though he did the voice pretty well.
And I think he had that voice before the cartoon, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. That happened twice in our life. Derrick had Shredder spot on before we started watching the cartoon. And Dale nailed the Big Boy Caprice character before we saw Dick Tracy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Mine used more naughty language than the Al Pacino version.
Yes, it did. But Derrick's Shredder, like Derrick was the oldest and was actually the one who, like, I don't know if he studied, but he knew how Shredder could figure out how to beat everybody. So Derrick was always a pain in the butt for the good guys. And I don't even know if he had any good guys besides the Ninja Turtles, because he always just had a mass of bad guys.
Well, the Shredder character kind of created himself because he had that posture, that humped over posture, and that hand would just kind of come out, and he kind of worked over Big Boy, off of Big Boy. I always felt like you could just do an entire thing with just Shredder and Dale's Big Boy interaction would be
yeah,
a great comedy show.
It was, because your Shredder just thought Big Boy was ridiculous, and Big Boy would mock Shredder because he was so focused that had that kamikaze mentality, and it was just some of the Big Boy characters went way off the bad guys went way off the rails.
But I nailed Mumbles too before
you
the
did
movie
nail
came out.
Mumbles.
Yeah.
The influence went a little astray.
You know, I only recently found out that was Henry Silva was the influence in the movie, and then it just made perfect sense. So
yeah, once you know it, it makes perfect sense. So Derrick, what are some of your favorite memories when we were down in the basement, creating these worlds and playing with these guys?
I don't know. I can't really pick out one in particular, but
you know what? Go ahead.
The whole thing.
Yeah, that was a really the fact that we had the whole basement to just do with what we wanted to was pretty amazing.
I mean, it was like every kid's fantasy.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Yeah, it really was. Here's the thing, though, and I'll admit this now live on this podcast, that we probably played with our action figures much later than most people would, right? So what was funny is we'd be down in the basement. Now we're like 13, 14, right? We're coming up with these stories and we're doing this, blah, blah, blah. And like someone would knock on the door. Like one of our friends would knock on the door while we were downstairs playing. And then it's like total silence. Like, don't let them hear us, right? And then someone had to run up the stairs to the back door and kind of but it's
a real thing. Like you once you hit that age, and we're especially when we were coming up, you played with toys, and then there was that you're either told by your parents or just the general, the way that the world is oh, you got to stop being childish and stop playing with toys. And you're like, well, it's still a lot of fun. Do I want to stop? Like, if you're still having fun doing it, what incentive is there really aside from either peer pressure or societal norms? Like, no, this is fun. I'm gonna enjoy it.
And I still believe that. Go ahead, Derrick. Sorry.
That's the great thing about the way the collector's market now, that it's not weird now to be 40 years old in the toy aisle of the store.
It's almost weird to see kids.
Like when you're a kid, it's okay, and now it's okay. But when I was like my 20s, you're kind of peeking around the corner, like, oh, nobody sees me.
The assumption is that like you're buying it for someone else, and you're like, I think for so long a lot of us just kind of let the cashier assume, yeah, it's for my nephew, yeah, it's for whomever, and now it's not as much the case anymore, because you're right, Derrick. It's nice that things have changed, and it was always okay, but now it's like more okay to go and just buy stuff for yourself. Like, yeah, this is for me. This is mine.
Yeah. And we were still buying into high school, when we moved to North Carolina. I had just graduated, but up through high school, when I first got my car, Dale and I went to Play World. There
was no gap. Like, we just stopped playing with them. There was at no point did we ever stop buying them. We just stopped playing with them at some point.
Right. And it wasn't really until college that it was like nobody cared, right? But
there's that changeover from like playing to, well, this looks good just sitting on the shelf. This is fine.
Yeah.
Well, a big shift happened when the new Kenner Star Wars came out.
Yeah.
Because I remember going to hang out with you guys at college. And it was not uncommon for like just regular guys to have, you know, the new Star Wars dudes on their dresser in their dorm room. They weren't
Right.
toy collectors per se, but new Star Wars figures came out, and everybody
I,
there was
I
a Gen
think that
Xer.
excited everybody. I remember when they came out, I like blew a whole paycheck on them.
Yeah,
I bought like
everybody did.
39 all at one time.
I remember that. I remember that. I speak often enough on this podcast, and certainly the time where we were all, you know, we moved to North Carolina. My buddy Noel was also a toy enthusiast, and we would, you know, we'd get paid every Wednesday. So Wednesday night was, you know, go get Taco Bell, go to all the stores, maybe see a movie, but you know, you made the rounds: Target, Walmart, the comic book stores, Toys R Us, the mall, and then end at Perkins and a cup of coffee and a chocolate French silk pie. And that was our routine. Like that's what we did. And and that was, you know, forever. And still now I'm grateful that I'm able to still collect. I love that Derrick is still collecting and Dale obviously is still collecting. So for you guys, Derrick and Dale, and Derrick, you can go first. Like what has you still collecting?
Uh, I mean, it's just something like brings me back to my childhood. Like I love the Universal monsters.
Yeah.
And it feels like I'm like keeping them alive by I'm just so you know excited that these figures are coming out and people still have an interest in them.
Yeah.
After all these years.
What's great about the Universal monsters is they've always kind of been there on the peripheral, and now that NECA has that license, and I love that you get those figures now with a real sense of artistic presentation as opposed to, you know, just knocking them out.
Yeah,
And
well, it's like the continuing a tradition. I always see as a school bus driver from school, I see kids with like Michael Myers shirt or Chainsaw Massacre shirt.
yeah,
And it's like, you know, those monsters, you know, for them are like Dracula and Frankenstein was for me.
right,
So
right,
it's
yeah,
like the whole thing is continuing.
yeah.
You know, it's not dying out.
hmm I'm with you because, you know, with my job, I'm in and out of schools all day and I'm doing assemblies and stuff. And when kids see me with a Batman thing on or whatever, and they come up and they start talking about I mean, obviously Batman's, you know, very much in the forefront of culture, but you know, when they start talking about some of the other superheroes and um, you know, the new Spider-Man and all kinds of stuff, it's really cool. Um, Dale, what's still got you spending your hard-earned ducats on toys?
I I think it comes down to, it's funny things that came out here in the last 8 or 9 years. Like I was kind of in a slowdown period, and I remember talking to you and saying like, boy, my GI Joe collection kind of sucks. Like that was the key toy, like the main toy of my childhood,
Yeah.
and I have so little of it. So I'm gonna start buying some vintage GI Joe stuff. So I started going around trying to find, which is just before Classified came out.
Right.
And the Classified series was kind of the what kicked it off for me. And then I love the Star Wars Black series, but I'm very cheap. But as time went on, I started finding them on clearance and on discount at Ollie's, and so that got me excited. And also the horror stuff, just like, I mean, Derrick and I have a long history of watching horror movies together, and the horror stuff really enthused me too, because there's so much stuff that you know, when the NECA stuff, the really nice NECA stuff started coming out and it was $30-$40, I thought, oh, I'm not spending that. And then I saw Jason and I was like, okay, I'm buying that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and um so that's a big part of it. I'm really excited they just put out the My Bloody Valentine, the mind worker guy. I really want that.
Yeah. They did the that Tiny Terrors one, and then they
And
did the big one.
just like in the, I collect Blu-rays and DVDs too, and it's the same principle of like, because it's become such a niche market, like really exciting obscure things are coming out, stuff that I loved, that I saw on cable or watched on USA Up All Night, is actually getting really treated like important work. And that's what I love about the Nekahara stuff, and I love about the G.I. Joe Classified is being treated as, you know, Gung Ho is being treated as an important piece of culture history, as opposed to
my favorite.
just being a figure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But before it ends, I want to point out something you may not have remembered. But when we played with our Transformers, they didn't get to be cars very often. We just
no, not at all.
played with them like regular action figures. But at one point, we didn't cover the pool.
Yep.
And the pool froze over, and we played with our Transformers on the frozen ice on the pool.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's always been a special memory for me.
Yeah, that was why I always kind of steered more towards the animal style Transformers, like the Dinobots, the Predacons, the Terracons. I always loved them, because even though I would have them in robot mode, the animal form would be almost like the special attack. They'd be fighting with each other, and Grimlock would go into Dino mode and stomp out whomever, and then go back to robot mode. The car, like I liked some of the characters. Like Jazz is one of my favorite Transformers, but he would always just be a robot.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all love Soundwave, but really, what happens when he becomes a boombox? What you listen to some LL Cool J?
I always wish they would have done that more often, where Megatron's just hanging out and he's like, Soundwave, play Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Transformer I got.
Yeah, he just that's like his Alexa. He's like, Soundwave, play some smooth jazz.
Soundwave just sighs.
Just to cement my nerd bona fides, I said LL Cool J because he just can't live without his radio.
That's right. He can't. I love that you guys are still collecting. I know Derrick took a break for a couple of years until really the Universal stuff came out, because he was hardcore into the Star Wars stuff for a while, and then he took a break. And I was really excited when I found out he was collecting again, because
the Star Wars stuff just multiplied so fast that I couldn't keep up.
Yeah.
Living in a rural area, I can't just drop by Target every week. It's go to Target, for me, it's like almost a day trip. So
right. Yeah, I understand that. But I love that that's still, like, you know, we've obviously, you know, grown up and had to go. Dale's all the way down to Florida, and I'm in New York, and Derrick's in North Carolina. But it's still something that we share. And I love, and I thank you guys for being you know, subscribers to the show and supporting and watching. It's just, you know, I just love it. And every time I'm on the show and Tom and I are discussing, I'm thinking about you guys, because the toys really brought us together, like really did. Like, I don't see kids coming together in that way. They like, it's all online, and, you know, but like, we each occupied the same space and created worlds together and created stories together. And I know it sounds cheesy, but, you know, that was the big deal. That was a big deal.
Yeah, we really appreciate the comments on the show as well, because it's pretty much every week we'll have the conversation, and then we'll be done, and then we'll immediately forget all this other stuff that we meant to talk about during the episode, and then we'll see comments and be like, oh yeah, oh, we absolutely should have gone over Never Ending Story. Absolutely should have gotten figures.
And there are so many things that we are not going to get to touch on in the next couple of minutes, but like, there are just so many toy lines, so many just funny moments, so many worlds that we built at, you know, there's no way in one show we could connect on them all, but you know, we spent a long time collecting and buying toys and making stories. It was great.
I'm curious, what for Dale and Derrick, are there toy lines that are up and coming that have you excited, that you want to jump on, or that you can't wait for?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, not anything in particular. Although I've been on Big Bad Toy Store a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I see like these cool figures. I have no idea what the deal is with them, you know, where they're from, but I'm like, I'm gonna get that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm wondering, Dale, if you've heard anything about a toy line for the upcoming Toxic Avenger reboot.
I have not, no. But you know, it's funny because there's toy lines that you know about that are coming out 2 years from now, and then something will just spring up that you go, oh, where did that come from?
Right.
Derrick and I were talking about the House of 1,000 Corpses figures that came out. I don't remember which company did them, but they just seem to spring up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And
no, there was no
they
warning
made
about that.
every single character.
Well, it's the 20th anniversary of that movie, so
Wow, it's been 20 years already?
yeah.
Wow.
Makes me feel old.
You feel old.
Wow.
I remember getting the DVD for that movie, and that being almost as entertaining as the movie. If you just let it sit, and I forgot his name. I forgot the name of the clown character.
Captain Spaulding.
Yes,
It's
Captain Spaulding would just do random stuff if you let the menu sit there, and I would leave that on in the background and do other stuff and just be entertained by it. Wow, 20 years.
I didn't know they had that on there. That's fantastic.
I look forward to future waves of classified, of course. I'm just they're so good at me not having any idea what they're gonna do next.
Right.
You know, like
I did see Jinx is coming out, Dale.
I know, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. It's like they're tapped into my brain specifically because they've already done Low Light and Tunnel Rat and Hawk.
And Shockwave, Hawk,
And Shockwave,
Jinx,
like all of my favorite Joes seem to be getting the
and
treatment,
Barbecue.
which is exciting. Well, Barbecue was, I just thought he would look neat as a classified figure. And
Yeah.
I said that to Dana, and he said, no, I don't want a Barbecue figure. And then what was it, like 3 months later, they announced Barbecue. Yeah.
Now you can take your pick.
Yeah.
So I'm just psychically linked with Hasbro.
Yeah. I'm excited, and I
And
know
they're doing
Derrick,
Nemesis Enforcer, which is another one on my wish list.
Yes.
that's on everyone's wish list. I know I'm excited. I know Derek's excited to see where that where the Dungeons and Dragons line is going. I'm waiting to see if they do the bigger figures like the North Lord and
And the
Ogre
Titan, the
King.
tall, cool one.
I want to see the Ogre King.
Ogre King. Yeah, that was always your favorite, the Ogre King. He was a cool one too.
And
Man, he would be
Cal,
cool. NECA would do a fantastic job with him.
You
Well,
see me
the
going
four
down the
big bad
checklist.
guys for that was Warduke, Ogre King, Calabac, and the assassin. So
Yeah. All good stuff.
I'm
Well-
dying to know. I'm dying to know who's going to do Tiamat. That's the race right now. Who's going to crank out a Tiamat? Is it going to be Hasbro? Is it going to be Super 7? Is NECA going to do it? We've got 3 companies right now cranking out Dungeons and Dragons stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody has to make
An
one.
affordable Tiamat. An affordable Tiamat. Yes. Well, I think thank you guys for being on. I think this is the point where we
thanks
could
for having me.
yeah, it's great fun. And you know, Tom, if you want to wrap us up and give us our credentials out.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. If you viewers, watchers, subscribers, thank you for listening. We hope that you've enjoyed the show. Come back again. We'll definitely have more special episodes. You guys have to come back on at some point because this has been a lot of fun. If you'd like to get a hold of us on Twitter, our handle is 2 Guys Talking Toys. That is the number 2. No G after the talking. Same thing for Gmail. Instagram, one day. But until then, like and subscribe to the video if you're enjoying what you're seeing. And take care, everybody.
Yeah.